Hello everyone, good day. So I am Jeneline Pacheco Aguilar from Bachelor of Secondary Education major in English. And for today's video, I am going to discuss about Bloom's taxonomy, old and revised. So for the introduction, in 1956, Benjamin Bloom with collaborators Max Egelhart, Edward First, Walter Hill, and David Krathwohl published a framework for categorizing educational goals. Taxonomy of educational objectives, familiarly known as Bloom's taxonomy. So this framework has been applied by generations of K-12 teachers and college instructors in their teaching. So let's go to the discussion. So the old Bloom's taxonomy, 1956. So the framework elaborated by Bloom and his collaborators consisted of 6 major categories: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. The categories after knowledge were presented as skills and abilities, with the understanding that knowledge was the necessary precondition for putting these skills and abilities into practice, while each category contained subcategories, all lying along a continuum for simple to complex and concrete to abstract. The taxonomy is popularly remembered according to the 6 main categories. So here are the author's brief explanations of these categories or main categories in from the appendix of Taxonomy of Educational Objectives. First, we have here knowledge. So it involves the recall of specifics and universals, the recall of methods and processes, the recall of a pattern, structure, or setting. Next, we have comprehension. So it refers to a type of understanding or apprehension such that the individual knows what is being communicated and can make use of the material or idea being communicated without necessarily relating it to other material or seeing its fullest implications. So next we have here application. It refers to the use of abstractions in particular and concrete situations. So analysis. So it represents the breakdown of a communication into constituent elements or parts such that the relative hierarchy of ideas is made clear and or the relations between ideas expressed are made explicit. The fifth one is synthesis. So it involves the putting together of elements and parts so as to form a whole. So the last one we have here evaluation. It engenders judgments about the value of material and methods for given purposes. So next, the 1984 edition of Handbook 1 is available in CFT Library in Colhon 116. So see its Acorn record for call number and availability. Barbara Gross Davis in the Asking Questions chapter of Tools for Teaching also provides examples of questions corresponding to these categories. So this chapter is not available in the online version of the book, but tools for teaching in available in the CFT library. So see its Acorn record for call number and availability. So the original taxonomy given by Benjamin Bloom in 1956 in his book, The Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, the classification of educational goals, represents the phenomenon of cognitive learning as a 6-level hierarchy in which each consecutive level requires some extra processing by the mind. These levels are labeled in the form of uncountable nouns: knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation, as mentioned earlier. So this is the Revised Taxonomy 2001, a group of cognitive psychologists, curriculum theorists, and instructional researchers and testing and assessment specialists published in 2001 a revision of Bloom's taxonomy with the title A Taxonomy for Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. This title draws attention away from the somewhat static notion of educational objectives in Bloom's original title and points to a more dynamic conception of classification. So the authors of the revised taxonomy underscore this dynamism, using verbs and gerunds to label their categories and subcategories rather than the nouns of the original taxonomy. So these action words describe the cognitive process or processes by which thinkers encounter and work with knowledge. So first we have here remember. So recognizing and recalling. Understand, interpreting, exemplifying, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. And then we have here apply. It is executing and implementing. Next, we have here analyze, differentiating, organizing, and attributing. We have also here evaluate, so checking and critiquing, and then create, generating, planning, and producing. So in the revised taxonomy, knowledge is at the basis of these 6 cognitive processes, but its authors created a separate taxonomy of the types of knowledge used in cognition. We have here factual knowledge, knowledge of terminology, knowledge of specific details and elements. Next, we have conceptual knowledge. So, knowledge of classifications and categories, knowledge of principles and generalization, knowledge of theories, models, and structures. And then we have here procedural knowledge. So, knowledge of subject-specific skills and algorithms, so knowledge of subject specific techniques and methods. And then the last one, knowledge of criteria for determining when to use appropriate procedures. And then we also have here metacognitive knowledge, so strategic knowledge, knowledge about cognitive tasks including appropriate contextual and conditional knowledge, and then self-knowledge. The revised Bloom's taxonomy, or the RBT, was given by David Krathwohl in 2001. Dr. Bloom had passed away in 1999, but Krathwohl had worked with Benjamin Bloom extensively earlier in defining the learning domains, suggesting the learning taxonomies for each, and so on. The revised taxonomy simplifies the nouns of Bloom's taxonomy into verbs and goes remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Additionally, it also swaps the last 2 levels. So in conclusion, both the original and revised Bloom's taxonomy rise from basic knowledge through more sophisticated levels of cognition in a way analogous to Maslow's understanding of needs. Bloom thought lower level thinking skills were the foundation for higher order skills. So that's all for the Bloom's taxonomy old and revised. Thank you.